Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. It is the Optimal You right here on HGG Radio, and this is the YouTube segment. And I have a guest with me today, so I'm inviting you to jump on over because I'll be inviting the guest on screen, on camera in a few minutes, and we're going to have a very interesting discussion. Now, we've been talking about Christmas since the month of November. And it's very important that we talk about Christmas because we want to ensure that we have some understanding and that we are on the right path. You know what I mean? So we're going to be having a discussion today, and I'm going to invite my guest up in a minute, and he's going to tell us who he is, his name, the name of his church, and if he's married, if he's single, if he has a quadruple children. You know what I mean? We're going to talk to our guest this morning. All right. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning. And so, for the benefit of our viewers and listeners, can you please introduce yourself, who you are, if you have any children, the name of your church, etc., etc.?
I'm Everton Butler. I am the pastor of Good News Assemblies of God, located in Portmore, Jamaica. I'm married, one wife, Dan, two children, Sashana and Yosef. And I'm just so happy to be able to talk about Christmas, and hopefully at the center of that, we will find Christ. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now, I announce all the time it's my favorite time of the year. Okay? I'm not hiding to say that I'm not blushed. It is my favorite time of the year because it brings that feeling. I can't explain it, but Christmas brings a vibe. Okay,
Yeah.
and I love it. No, we know with all of those strippings and trappings and all these things comes the matter of tradition. Now, there are things that we do within our family and churches and so on that sometimes, is questionable, but we want to also use these things to elevate Christ. We don't want to put him at the back burner to cause Christmas to become somewhat materialistic. So we want to have this discussion. And the first thing I want to bring in, Pastor Butler, is as you observe Christmas, and you're not a baby. We know dog your age is not puppy. Okay, neither is it is for me. So the question I'd want to ask is, having been around and seen Christmas as it is, do you think that it has evolved over time, and or has the element remained the same in terms of the most significant thing about Christmas today? Do you think any changes have been made? Do you think it's all the same?
Well, there are a lot of changes that have
Hmm.
occurred in terms of how we celebrate Christmas
Yeah.
and how we focus on that Christmas event within the culture. Quite a bit
Hmm.
has changed. So there is a constant evolution, and much of that evolution is taking us away from some time-honored traditions.
Ah. Oh. Could you probably tell
Yeah.
us two of them that you think, or one that you think it has taken us away from?
Well, I think as we move forward in time, it is fair to say that in the way we celebrate Christmas,
Hmm.
the things that we hold dear and see as Christmas celebrations,
Hmm.
as we go forward into the future, have had less and less to do with Christ
Ah.
and the worship of God, and
Ah.
more to do with us and how we want to feel and behave at this time of
Hmm.
year.
We go around and we see persons doing Christmas decorations and
Mhm.
all these things. And we're still talking about tradition because decorating is one of the traditions of Christmas time. Um, People will use a nativity scene, right, at different sections of the decoration. Do you think it plays a role in shaping how Christians celebrate Christmas? Do you think it's impactful any at all?
Well, here's my answer. If people are coming from a biblical grounding, an understanding of that night when Christ was born, with the stars lighting up in the sky and so on, then it could be that this is where this tradition came from, with the lights twinkling and twinkle, twinkle, little stars and so on
Mm-hmm.
and so forth. But while we focus on these things, there is a tendency to see them as standing alone.
Mm.
For example, Sister Denise, there was a time when people used to drive around to look at the houses. For example, in Portmore, where you have some really good artists in
Yeah.
Jamaican terminology, some bad artists, creative people who would do, there would be a manger setting on somebody's house top. And it
Mm-hmm.
is nice to see. And definitely, it would bring to our minds the idea about Christ and be it the birth in the manger and so on. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you would see in the lights formed, and you would see, oh, that's definitely a donkey, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and that there looks like a woman holding a baby. And I think that kind of of lighting and representation of Christmas from the biblical point of view with the lights could do much to
Mm.
turn people's mind to Christ and the
Yes.
fact that this was his advent, this was his coming out or his coming in to
Yeah.
us season. But I fear that as we move forward, it's more about
Bling
who's more
bling.
extravagant,
Mm-hmm.
who's more skilled.
Yeah.
And when we're driving from community to community, observing the light in people's houses, are we not saying who's better than who?
That is true.
Which
That
is,
is so true.
yes,
It's
which is a better
true. Because
artistic
even if they have the
presentation.
nativity scene up, you're still looking at the quality of the decorations.
Yes. And you're having a conversation in your car or somewhere at church, whose lighting looks better than who.
True.
So the idea that Christ would then be the center of these lighting displays um, becomes a little bit foggy.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is it about us
Or
and
that.
how we can express ourselves and who is more rich and extravagant and so on.
But it still does. Oh, for the benefit of my listeners and viewers who hear Reverend Butler calling me Denise, that's the other name that I'm known as. So don't wonder who is he talking about. It's the same me. Same Renee, same me. So
Okay.
let us continue now onto the conversation. But
Okay.
you still connected the whole matter of the spiritual message because, as you said earlier, the decorations, but the persons would have to definitely draw their attention to the fact that this is a Christ message. So
Yes.
even though it's there and it's all over, you see the nativity scene, you see the lights form it, or they have the pictures of it on the ground or the ceramic, whatever. You have to specifically look with intent in your mind to say, that's talking about Christ. But the more you see it, I think the more we see it, the more it will bring the message across, don't you think?
And here I'm 50-50.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you, some people will only see the bling in the thing.
But it will still be, if the more, I'm saying, the more you see it, if you see it like out of 10, you see it 5 places, I think the impression would be great, don't you think?
No, I'm agreeing,
Mm-hmm.
while at the same time, I'm not necessarily agreeing without disagreeing, right?
All right.
So
That's fair.
then, so I'm saying that yes, it does in a very vivid way,
Mm-hmm.
and it can be a very powerful reflection of the nativity scene and a reminder to people,
Yeah.
you know, this was God sending his only begotten son into the world.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, it was promised that he's coming again.
Right.
And maybe that could cause someone to reflect more deeply upon how they have lived their lives
Mm-hmm.
and what the moment means.
Yes, that's true.
However, as I said, for some people, Christmas is just a fun time.
Yeah.
It's just pretty lights, it's bling bling, it's gifts, it's food, it's party. Yeah, it's the nicest time of year for what? For the worship of God, for the reflection on Christ? No.
Ooh.
For me,
But
I'm a friend them. I'm a
stop
family
poking.
them, you know?
Stop poking me.
And that's where I feel like it's going
The
compared
tradition.
to where we are
The
coming from.
tradition. Yeah.
So for example, your mood question a while ago would want me to say, yeah, people will see this and see God, hear the music, hear God, but aren't we more talking about 20 or 25 years ago,
True.
Renee,
True.
when as a society we were far more triggered by Bible and
Yes.
Jesus
Yes,
and
that's true.
Christianity
That
and
is so true.
anything churchy, you know? Today, I think we are becoming far more secularized.
Yeah.
And so some of the things that held great meaning then, yeah, it does hold some meaning today, but to many people, it's just a part of the bling, it's a thing.
But Pastor, how can Christians today, how can Christians incorporate all of what is happening, incorporate their faith or push their faith or expand their faith or share their faith in their home and community through their decor or what they are or their traditions? How can they do this? Can they bring back some of the things that they have once cast aside? What how can Christians promote Christ in this season?
So do we do that with the lights? Maybe,
Anything, whatever ways they are celebrating,
maybe.
whichever way.
But I think that more importantly, at this time, it is for Christians to be the light.
Mm,
So I'm not against putting up of lights in the home. I
right.
do it too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's nice and pretty and blingy
Yes,
and cute
man.
and special. And you know, we borrow this from somebody's song, but it's true of us that Christmas is our favorite time of the year.
It is mine.
We just have a lot more time for each other and for these
Mm-hmm.
niceties that
Yes.
we don't find time for in our busy, busy lives. But I would say this to us that while the lights in the window and on the rooftop are helpful, it is really being the light. For example, do we offer morsels to people at Christmas who
Mm,
we disregard all year? Do we invite people to our Christmas nativity scenes who we pass all year without regard?
hmm.
And by the way, while the lights are in the window, what are we doing in the house? How are we living with each other? So, for me, these are the central issues that really turn people to God. You know, it
Mm,
is us being the light, truly showing love for our neighbors.
yeah.
I mean, when Christmas comes, the neighbors that we can't live with, that we can't take because they're so difficult. Do we find ways of reconciling with them? Or do we expect that if we put up the lights and even words, we are the light of the world, that
Hmm.
suddenly they are to believe it, you know?
Yes.
So I think the lights are fantastic, Denise. We need some lights in this dark world, eh?
True.
Even the physical lights
Mm-hmm.
are helpful. And you know, they say that people who live in those parts of the world where they are starved of sunshine, you know, 6 months of darkness, 6 months
Tell me
of,
about it.
of, of light, that
Mm-hmm.
they have the highest rates of depression in the world. By God, we need the lights. We need the lights, and we need for them to be bright and beautiful and
Yeah.
expressive and, you know, speak nativity. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I fear that what will be most effective is us being the light in the way we have lived.
But with saying that, Pastor, with saying that, having my own experience in, like, for example, in Canada for the Christmas period, and I know that in Jamaica we would have our Christmas service that time. Not all places in Canada actually have Christmas morning service or Christmas service. They may have a Christmas Eve service, but they don't have a Christmas Day service. And the question before us is, do you think that the church service impacts the community and the different events that we have as a church? Does it preserve the spiritual focus of Christmas when you do that? Because, as I said, in the foreign lands that I've been to, and I've been to the US at Christmas as well, we don't really see the emphasis on the day, or in some cases, not even the day before. Do you think that when we do this, when we have the Christmas service or the production or whatever, does that preserve the focus of Christmas?
So,
Even though we should be the light,
so
does
now,
that preserve?
so now you've got me agreeing with you wholeheartedly. I believe that those things matter.
Mm,
I remember back in the days living in Clarendon when we would go caroling early in the morning. It was always like 4:30 or some
yes.
hour like that with our candles, and who couldn't afford candle, a bucket torch.
Ooh.
By the way, sweet Renee, do you know bottle torches?
Excuse
Are,
me, sir.
are
Dog
you of
my
that
age is not puppy.
generation?
Dog my age is not puppy. Let me just say that. So that should give you an answer.
Forgive me.
You are forgiven, sir.
Right. So we would carry our bottle torches, In those days, Renee, they didn't even have street lighting. Maybe a one street light down a Summerfield town.
Mm,
And you would go from house to house, veranda to veranda, you walk up. In those days, there weren't any big gates to keep you out the door, you
yeah.
know? And you would just stop by and you start to sing. And as you're feeling the beauty of the song, lights are coming on in the house, and you hear voices in the house begin to sing with you. Of course, you want to touch as many homes as you can. And sometimes you turn away, and a mother or a father, a child may say, "Can we have one more song?" You know?
We did that a few times when I was a teenager and
Yes,
living in Portmore, St. Catherine, Jamaica. We did it a few times in our community, and it was listen. People came to their gates, and we're talking about early in the morning because we did that before going to service. So
yes,
it's very early. So you sing and then you go to service,
yes.
and person
And
could
then
come and
what would
turn their
happen,
light on.
Renee, is that some people would come to you, come behind you in the caroling. They would leave their homes. They're
And
not
join
from
you
the
to go to
church,
church.
and they follow you all the way to church. So I
Mm,
believe that that was impactful. But can I
yes.
tell you that since I've lived in St. Catherine, we have done caroling, where people were annoyed.
Hmm.
Will you come to wake me up? Go on, go on. No,
Yeah.
I can't turn on the radio when I want to hear it.
Wow. So much
So,
has changed.
so communities are people, or people react in communities are different. I mean, the rural
Mm,
people are far more open and friendly and loving and far more Christianized, I think, in their way of thinking, their worldview.
yes.
And I would suggest too that as we have gone forward in time,
Mm-hmm.
people are less and less invited of some of the things that you and I as Christians value greatly.
Mm,
People just want to be left alone and live their lives alone. And
yeah.
so that is part of the evolution of our society. That
Mm-hmm.
is not as open and as friendly as we, and it's not as community oriented as it was. And
Yeah.
so the other thing to Renee is in some communities, can we now get people of faith to leave their homes at 4:30 in the morning.
Some countries you can, some countries you can, but probably not in Jamaica land we love at the moment.
Because some people will tell you, I don't want to be a victim of a drive-by shooting,
Mm,
right? Or early morning robbery coming out of my home to come and join this. The context of safe communities has changed. So we have far more communities where people feel insecure
yes.
and would not necessarily want to come out at 4:30
And that is what has would
to join
impact.
Caroline.
Yeah, that would what would be impact. But let me say, for those who are viewing and those who are listening, you are tuned into the Optimal You right here on the Higher Ground Gospel Radio, and I am your life coach and host, Renee, and we are talking today to Reverend Everton Butler of Good News Assembly in Portmore, St. Catherine, Jamaica, and we're talking about the matter of the Christmas traditions, how it impacts the Christians, does the two walk side by side or hand in hand if they can. And so we're moving on. So if you're listening and you're viewing, jump onto the YouTube, give me your opinion, give me your feedback, or you can respond in our WhatsApp chat at 825 343 4486. That's 825 343 4486. Pastor Butler, the Christians to strike the balance. And I want to read these questions now. How do Christians navigate the balance between cultural Christmas practices and the spiritual significance of the season? The balancing. How do we? Because some of us we love the bing bing and the excitement, but at the same time we know it's not about the bing. How do they balance?
Well, that's a very important question, and I think that balance will make the huge difference.
Yeah.
So there are some things unique about about Christmas.
Mhm.
If you want to get the Christians who have not been to church in the last 3 months into the building, let there be a Christmas Sunday. They
Mm.
are coming. Make sure, Renee, you have enough seats. They
Since
are
COVID, I don't
coming.
know, because since COVID, a lot has changed. So I don't know. YouTube,
It's still
anywhere.
one of the largest services for the entire year.
Hmm.
So that is one way in which those Christians and Christian-minded people strike the balance. They spend more time together in worship with the people of God.
Right.
The church needs to also be conscious that people want to express themselves. They want fellowship. They want fun. That's what the world is doing. And I think that the church must also provide some outlets. As you said, those nativity plays and concerts and so on. We're talking about people like to eat good food that they
Mhm.
don't get to eat
Yes.
all year long.
Preach
And,
it.
and I would suggest that socials
Yeah.
where Christians come together to fellowship
Hmm.
would be important at this time. The encouragement from the pulpit and through other means of bringing families together,
Hmm.
Christian friends together. Because if we don't, there is a market out there.
I will pull them to that side.
Yes. And so the balance is struck by us as a church, recognizing the needs of our people, seeing
Hmm.
that we can, find activities that can meet those needs in a godly way.
But
But
Pastor, in your home, I
yes,
know the church is important, but in my home, for example, I'm a Christian. I go to church and have all these, and it's working. But when I get home, my mother is gonna tell me, that we are going to have to put the mistletoe over the door, and anybody come, just for argument's sake. I'm just saying that one because that's the one that came to mind. But some kind of tradition that doesn't necessarily um promotes Christ. how can I balance that? She wants the light, she don't want a nativity. She's not a Christian and she don't want any nativity scene. 'Cause this is for the younger ones. What happens?
Well, it's just that every parent has to lead their homes in the
Mm,
way that they are convicted of God and they feel that is right.
yeah.
But the home, I think, is that place, that incubator.
Mm-hmm.
And at Christmas, it should be an incubator of joy.
Mm,
And I can't tell anybody about the mistletoe or I can't tell anybody about lights in the window because I ain't going to pay the light bill for the guy with the whole pretty lights in the window because
right.
when Christmas gone, the bill coming.
We have an episode coming up for that, Talk about how to deal with that.
I would also ask people not to go overboard with
Mhm,
with the spending.
mhm,
Christmas is what about what God gave,
mhm.
right? Not necessarily what we get.
So we don't pressure the children.
We don't have to. And we must demystify and expose Santa Claus
Oh,
for what he
uh,
is.
the
He's
mother.
not even Jamaican as far as I know. He's North American. And we must let Jamaican children know we don't have no Santa Claus to drop off anything by night. We don't even have no chimney for him to drop down anything.
Mm-mm.
And the we don't need Rudolph with the red rose, red nose, and the sleigh and all of those things. So some of the things that we have that are mythical and untrue about Christmas, we just need to just cut to the chase and say, children, here it is.
Mhm.
Whatever you get, mom and dad going to have to buy it.
And that's how you help them to balance.
Yes. And when you grow up, whatever your children will get at Christmas,
Be
whether
you.
or not you put a sock on a tree or on a tree and we put something in it that you have asked, we have to buy it. And we
Yeah.
can't buy everything you need.
We had an episode with that, where we talk about because this lady on the live, she said she made it clear to her children at an early age that whatever you get at Christmas, we are the ones who bought it, no Santa over here. And she said she's taught her children that
Yes,
over
yes.
the years. So those listeners who are on, you can have a listen to that clip last week Tuesday when we spoke to some ladies about the whole matter of Christmas. And in closing, sir, this is a double whammy
But
question.
before we move up the family,
Oh, sorry.
Sister
Back up.
Denise,
Yes,
oh, Sister
it's
Renee,
fine. It's fine.
listen. Christmas morning breakfast.
Oh,
Can I say that in Jamaican?
yes, yeah, of course.
Breakfast. Huh?
Hey. Mm.
The ackee, the saltfish,
Are the corn pork?
the corn pork. Oh, my wife will burn that, bonfire pan that, Sister
No,
Denise.
I've some I can't
Sister
pork.
Renee, that one of the
No, sir,
stay.
I'll share some for you.
But
Worry.
yes, I'll come over for
Yes,
that.
man, we
I
share some
promise
for
you.
you.
So the ackee and the saltfish,
Yes.
right? Back in the days, the crane the meat right over the fireplace. Oh Lord,
Me no know that
that
one there. Mm-mm.
that get down and crispy fried on Christmas.
Ooh.
Your fried dumpling,
Yes, nice and soft, I've
your
mastered the art,
roast veg
I've
fruit,
mastered the art. I'll give you some of that too.
and when last have you seen a steamy cup of chocolate tea?
Not very long ago, because my church is to sell the chocolate. So I buy it from
Yes,
time to time. What you
but
talking
on
about?
Christmas morning in my home, it
Yes.
was chocolate tea.
Mm.
The
Still in
one
mind.
that you have
Still
to be
good in mind.
careful about before you lego yourself in it. You remember it had that little film,
Yes.
that milky film on top?
It still burn me no matter how I try. It
You
still
know,
burn me. I'm sorry.
you go too hard, man. You have to take it easy. And then Christmas
So,
dinner.
oh, the dinner. Oh, I think of the dinner.
Yes, sometimes you end up eating at your auntie house with your children after you don't eat at your house. But them did come and eat at your house
My house
before
was
you
the
go.
house that everybody came to. I
Oh yeah.
didn't go to anybody. My mother don't allow that, but everybody came to mine.
So that is something that we can do, and I believe
We
that
can maintain that as a tradition, and within that time we share Christ. And that's to my next question. in this time, how can Christians use Christmas to evangelize? And the double whammy part of it is, what can we take away from that? Before you respond to that, Sarah Panton says, yes, to have socials and such is very good, right? She says that on the YouTube chat. No, as I said, sir, how can we use it as a tool of evangelism? One, and two, what are lessons that we can take out of the Christmas season and beyond?
Well, for us, we all went to Christmas morning service. We came home, we kind of participated in the meal, and my mother would preach a little gospel about Jesus
Mhm.
and would ask one of us to pray before we had dinner. And I think that it is important that before we get into the eating of the physical bread,
Mhm.
that we should feast even 5 or 10 minutes. My mother could pray, and sometimes my little brother used to say, Mama! Meaning you go too hard now and too long. But without having to be too long and too expansive, is to share the message of hope that Jesus Christ came into this world
Mhm.
so that man may live and live forevermore.
Amen.
The abundant life and the eternal life. And I think that it's a perfect setting as families come back to the table to do that.
Yeah, to evangelize even at that point. And what about the community? How can we do that in the community? And also, what's the takeaway for a Christian? What can you leave Christmas? What lessons you think a Christian can take from Christmas that can take them through? And the point you just made could very well be that point, the point of knowing that He's given us eternal life and He's a provider,
Yes.
but what can we do in a community
Well,
to
I'm back
show?
in back. I'm going back to the country because all the good things seem to happen there.
Mhm.
On Boxing Day, people would walk around and we would share our cake and our sorrel and our hams. So we would, decide where we're going. This
Right.
lady have a whole heap of children who were difficult to feed, and we would share what we have with them. And I believe that that is, in a way, is an expression of a common love.
Holistic ministry.
Yes. And you didn't preach a sermon, but
Mhm.
I'm sure that, these things were appreciated. And the kindness, the caring, the love of God
Showing the love of God, yeah.
was shown through that. So I would encourage us in communities to do that. I mean, we can't afford necessarily to do this every month or all year, but certainly Christmas is the time the bonus come, and
Hey,
many of us have a little bit more than we would normally have. Let's share it and let's express the love of Christ in our giving. And maybe we're not going to preach a sermon. I said, Merry Christmas. God loves you.
yeah.
That kind of a thing. And you move on. But let us share. Let us think about those who are not going to have what we in Jamaica call Christmas. All of the consumables, the good things that come with Christmas. And let us, in an intentional way, reach out to them and express the love of God to them in our giving and our sharing with them. And
Mm.
remember, it's not just about the gift because anybody can give anything. Philanthropists and worldly gives. But when Christians give, let there be an expression of the love of Christ and the hope that Jesus brings to fallen men.
Thank you, Reverend Butler. That's a good way to close it off. I want to say thank you so much for joining us on the Optimal You today. And you've given us quite a bit to think about and quite a bit to look into. And I'm sure that those who will listen and those who will watch will take away points that will help them to, even though you maintain traditions, you can have it in a Christ way, a Christian way, a way
Mm.
that elevates Christ and promotes Christ to people. Thank you for joining us, Pastor Butler. Thank you very much for accepting a short notice. but I'm grateful.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed it. And
We look forward to having more conversations.
as usual, you're the vibes master, so I spent my time well.
I hear you, sir.
The
We
Lord
look
bless
forward
you.
to having other conversation at other times. You have a wonderful rest of day, sir.
And you too.
Bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
My people, my people, my people. There you have it. There you have it. No, you cannot tell me that as a Christian, you can't have the full package of Christmas. You can have the full package, but ensure that Christ is the center. Ensure that Christ is the center. Pastor Butler, I'm so grateful to have had you. You really shed some light and kind of ruffle some feathers and dig up the dust and let us look back at what Christmas was, and what it is now, and what it should really be. If that is it for me today on the YouTube segment, we'll continue our conversation. We'll continue our program over in the studio at HGG Radio. God bless you. I'm your life coach and host Renee saying thank you for joining me. See you next time. Oh, remember to join us tomorrow. Tomorrow is about what? Lifestyle. Bye bye.